At She Can, we lead with women's stories. We interview women from all over the world on their journeys, how they got to where they are today, to be mentors and role models for others. And I'm very excited to talk to Illana Raia today. Illana, you are a really important mentor and role model. You are the founder and CEO of Être, a mentoring platform for girls. And believing that mentors matter early, you bring girls directly into companies such as Spotify, Google, YouTube, the New York Stock Exchange, and many more to meet female leaders face to face. You've been named as one of the first 250 entrepreneurs in the Forbes Next 1000 list. You wrote a book, The Epic Mentor Guide, and insider advice for girls eyeing the workforce from 150 boss women who know. You have so many accolades for all the amazing work you have done. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got to this point of having founded such an incredible company.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I love your platform, and I'm just truly delighted to be here. I think so many of our interests and the things we want for women and girls are aligned, and so I'm just delighted. I will say at the outset, I'm a very unlikely founder. I went to law school straight out of college and thought I would never do anything but practice law. And I truly loved practicing law. And one of the things I loved so much about it was the mentorship I found early on at the firm. One of my very first mentors was a woman. She was the youngest partner the firm had ever made. And so from my very first day practicing law, I had the advantage of working side by side with an amazing woman who taught me and allowed me access into rooms and really showed me how to do that which I aspired to do. And it was when I was working and my daughter was in middle school that I realized she really didn't know what I did every day. And it bothered me a little bit. And it bothered me even more that she didn't know what my other accomplished female friends were doing. She would look at a friend of mine who was a surgeon or a news anchor or a writer or a fashion designer. And in her head, that was my friend from book club, or that was my friend that I had coffee with on Sundays. She didn't see what they were doing. And so I started to take her to see my friends in action at work. And it truly was as simple as that. And we can talk more about how has grown, but at its inception, I wanted my daughter to see women in powerful positions early on, to know that if she could see it, she could be it. It's an old adage, but it's true. And that's really how I started. And everything has sort of been a springboard off of that.
Ilana, so that's our tagline. It's easier to be what you can see, and you've really put that into
Mhm.
practice, and you've made such an enormous difference here. Tell us a little bit more about the impact you have with Etre and why you think that female leaders and mentors have such an unbelievably important role on girls. And there is a lot of data that underpins that, which you also say on your website, and I think it's important to mention it here.
I'm so glad you brought it up because the data really does drive what we do. In the very beginning, after I took my daughter to see these women, my first thought was, why can't other girls be doing this? Why can't I take other people's daughters into work to see women in action? And when I started doing that, I started as early as middle school, but very quickly Etra grew. We built it for middle school, but now we have girls in high school and girls in college, and that mentorship ecosystem just keeps growing. And one thing I noticed right away when I brought girls into boardrooms was the confidence boost that I saw. There might be a girl whose mother had pulled me aside before she got on the bus to say she's so shy. She's dying to go see TikTok or Spotify or the stock exchange or any of the places we go, but she's probably not going to speak. And inevitably, that was the girl whose hand was raised the highest, who was spinning around in that boardroom chair, so empowered and energized to speak because she felt seen and heard by other women at a company she liked, and she found her voice in that boardroom. And so that's the type of confidence boost I was seeing. The next logical question to ask yourself as the founder is that real or is it simply anecdotal? Could we prove that confidence boost at a time when girls need it? Or is that simply what we're seeing because these girls are drawn to what we're doing? And so in 2022, we did our first national study. We commissioned it with YPulse, that is a leading data science group for Gen Z. And we just released our second study this past year in February of 24. And what we saw, it's a nationwide survey asking girls about confidence and mentorship and deep into their interests. And what we saw was that right now, the current state of girls' confidence is that between the ages of 13 and 18, girls' confidence drops by 20%. The percentage of girls who say they feel smart in those ages drops by 50%. The percentage of girls who say they feel optimistic drops by 52%. And the percentage of girls who say they feel stressed rises by 241%.
Yeah, that one really threw me.
The numbers are stunning. The good news that we found, because there is good news with all of these numbers, is that 91% of girls, so 9 out of 10, said they feel that higher confidence is directly related to mentorship. They drew that line for us. 91% of girls said they would be more confident with a mentor. And so when we think, okay, there is this confidence slide, there's no question it is happening in these crucial years, but maybe there's a fix. Maybe mentors can be at least part of the solution, and it's not hard to do. We're not talking about mentors in the terms of a career-long grown-up mentorship, like you and I would think about it in a professional setting. We're talking about mentor moments, putting the girl who's scared to try out for the varsity team face to face with a professional athlete, putting the girl who's nervous to raise her hand face to face with a NASA engineer. And these are the moments that we are, forgive the pun, engineering and bringing to girls and schools and clubs so that maybe that girl raises her hand or doesn't shy away from the harder team. Maybe we can stop that confidence gap from growing.
Yeah, which is such important work, Ilana. And the anxiety goes up by 88%. And so you really take the fear out for the girls in giving up, the things that they love, feeling less than, and that confidence gap that grows over time, right? I mean, girls outperform boys in schools and university, and it creeps in, and so this data that you have come up with, I think, is really important. And 91% of girls want a mentor. So you're really
Yes.
filling a hole that is there gaping at us. What do you feel, Ilana, are the qualities that you brought to doing this? What are you sort of leading with? And that's really important for young girls to know as well.
I love that question too. I think a few things. First, the experience that I mentioned before. I had had an experience of great mentorship. So I knew the impact it could have, and I knew how impactful it could be in a short period of time. Second, I think when I'm asking women to open their boardroom doors, when I'm asking a company if we can come visit, I never feel like I'm asking for me. And I think it's easier to make a brave ask when you're asking on behalf of someone else. This is about the girls for me. This isn't for me. I had my career and an amazing experience. I want to democratize access to great mentors. I don't want a girl to have to rely on a mom network or a privilege at a school or anything like that. I want all girls to be able to come in. So there's a fearlessness to the ask that I don't know that I would have had otherwise. But because I'm asking for the girls, it's a little easier to be brave. So I think I grew into that. And I think the third thing probably is recognizing the power of a cold email. In the very beginning, when I first launched Être, every single day I would send a few cold emails to women I didn't know. And again, I don't know that I would have been brave enough to do it otherwise, but I recognized that I was in a new space. I was no longer in a space where I felt expertise. I was new to the girl power space. Others had been in it for longer and were doing it well. And I wanted, obviously, the good feedback is lovely, but I wanted the bad feedback. And I would send them the link to the early website and say, I'd love your thoughts, good or bad, just bring it on. And I think I don't know if it's a quality as much as it is a muscle that you learn to exercise to seek out all the feedback, the good, the bad, the terrifying, and say, I need to hear it all. I have a very thick skin. I will put it to good use. It was something I had learned, I think, practicing law, but I really started to use it for this. And so I think for anyone who's listening, when you're in a new space, when you're trying something new, you're bringing a new product to market, you're bringing new thought into a space, tap the experts, ask them truly what they think. Not everyone's going to be right, and not everyone's going to be aligned with what your mission is, but everyone has something to teach you. And I felt very open to that when I was starting.
Ilana, and I'm very grateful you said that because I think that we've shy away, right? And we fear this negative feedback. And it's always
Mhm.
been one of my guiding principles. Please tell me the truth. Because when you have the truth, you can find solutions. And so the more truthful feedback you get, the better the solutions.
I
Um,
love that line. That should go on a t-shirt, by the way. It's a perfect line.
Thank you. Ilana, so um, what are your challenges with Être? What are the challenges that you face and how do you overcome them? And what's your really big vision going forwards?
There are a lot of challenges, and I think I try to look at them as opportunities, and that in itself presents challenges for me. I see the way it is sticky. I love it when I go into a boardroom and executives will say, "We love that you're doing this. Why isn't anyone else doing this?" We love it when they welcome the girls. And don't forget, the girls pick the companies we go to.
Yeah.
So we don't go anywhere that the girls haven't voted to visit.
Mm.
There are so many opportunities for us now, and I want to swing at every single pitch. And any entrepreneur will tell you that's not always wise. That's really hard to do. But I want to take every chance and open every door for the girls. And I need to start being selective and tempering those,
Yeah.
the willingness to take all those opportunities. But I see such huge opportunity for this. I see this in schools. We're in 6 countries now for our clubs, and we've got girls in 7 countries doing TED Ed talks with us right now. And
Mhm.
I just see that growing. I want to give every girl access to executives in boardrooms. I want to give her a mic to speak on a TED Ed stage. I want to give her the chance to be quoted in our next book. So I just want to grow it. So I think my biggest challenge is somewhere in between having this giant vision for the what's next for girls with the willingness to swing at every single pitch. It's just not always possible.
Ilana, and I love that because I think that's really a growing pain of a company that has started as really successful and then has to really focus on how to make that big vision happen. And as you're inhabiting this incredible space, that's obviously incredibly aligned with what we do because I feel you do it in different ways, but we're serving it in different ways, but really the vision is the same. And so,
Mhm.
would you like to give us some top tips on how you feel all the girls and women that are listening to this, how what are the takeaways that you get from the girls visiting those boardrooms, having access to that kind of leadership, and where can girls sign up to your platform?
Yes, to all of it. The advice I find myself giving a lot, but I mean it every time I say it, is to raise your hand instead of lowering your standards. And that I feel is true whether you are in a classroom, whether you're in a locker room, whether you're in a boardroom. Raise your hand to ask your questions. Don't wait for someone else to ask it. And then conversely, when you know the answer, raise your hand to give it. Don't sit quietly in a classroom or in a meeting and let somebody else give the answer when you've been whispering it in your own head. Raise your hand to speak like that. I think raise your hand to volunteer when your help can be useful to a cause you admire or to someone else. Raise your hand if something doesn't sit right with you. Raise your hand to speak up about that. Don't, again, wait. And then raise your hand to help that next girl or that next woman. If you're in the classroom setting, if you're younger and you're listening, raise your hand to help that next girl who's nervous to take the accelerated class or nervous to try out for the next musical. And if you're a woman in a professional setting, that next person where it's her first day, she's new to your team, whether you are managing or you are running the company or you are stepping in as the most junior person, raise your hand to be part of whatever team you're joining and do not lower your standards for a second. You can find us at it's etregirls.com, E-T-R-E girls.com, and everywhere on social media, E-T-R-E girls. And if you DM us with any question at all, very often you'll get me. We read everything, we answer everything. If you want to be involved or you want a girl in your life to be involved, she can start a club at her school. She can be in our next book. She can do a TED Ed talk. She can Zoom. We call them mentor pop-ups with accomplished women that interest her. Or if she's in the New York area, she can come live to the next companies we're visiting. And if you are a woman at a company, we would love to come visit. It's a light lift. We'll come in person. We'll come by Zoom. Open your boardroom, save some seats for girls.
Amazing. I feel what you just said, Ilana, is also so important given the world we live in where we cancel people out all the time. And I think young people are scared to speak up because they feel that they might do something wrong. So we have even more barriers to the speaking up than we used to do. And we are not
Great point.
grace-filled conversations anymore. We don't feel that kindness that doesn't even require logic, right? It requires grace. And I think that we've become so divided that this is now a real issue. So I love what you just said because it is so important to speak up when something sits right and when something sits wrong, and not to be afraid of saying something wrong and for being canceled out. And I think we see those conversations taking place all over the place, right? Whether that's Blake Lively right now in the movie she was promoting, or we cancel people out quickly rather than trying to have graceful conversations where sometimes we have to pinpoint when we feel someone does something wrong. But the conversations are the important bit because that's how we figure out solutions. So I'm wondering, what are you most proud of with everything that you've achieved so far? What is that?
Oh, it's the girls. There's no question. What they do after these mentor moments, I'm in awe every time. They'll ask a great question and then they'll go start their nonprofit. We have girls who have written books. We have girls who have brought products to market and collaborated with companies. Girls giving brave talks about topics that are dear to them. Girls who are living in circumstances that are show unbelievable hardship, and they're helping the next girl come out of it. What they can start with just a little bit of mentor encouragement, with the right words from a woman who remembers what it's like to be her age and stand in her shoes. I'm in awe and so proud every single time of what these girls are accomplishing. Etra is 8 years old. And so we've seen some of these girls go from middle school straight up the academic ladder. And whether it's school related or sports or STEM or art or music, what we see them do when they realize that they can do it and they realize that they are seen and heard by women who have been there already, it'll leave you stunned every time.
Incredible, Ilana. I love that. So, what are the plans and goals for you to achieve in the next year or 2 years?
Well, we have our first live TED Ed event coming up in October. We've had 3 seasons of virtual TED Ed where girls from all over the world have, recorded their talks, and then we've shown them together and launched them with TED Ed. This is the first year we'll have a live stage as well in New York on October 20th. If you go to our website on our TED Ed page, there will be a link where people can watch the live stream when it happens. So that is a very big thing for us, and we're excited. We're excited about Day of the Girl, which comes just prior to that on October 11th. We've got exciting things in store, so keep your eye on our Instagram. And I think I'm excited to hear from more girls. What we're finding with companies again and again is that they want to hear from the girls, not just what their career plans are way down the road. They want to know what girls are reading right now. What are they listening to right now? What are the things that move them and inspire them? And so giving girls that voice, putting them in the room where they can actually give that feedback to companies, is a really interesting new aspect to Etra, and it's being sought by the companies. And the girls more than rise to the occasion. So I can see more, whether it's a partnership, a collaboration, or just frankly, just giving the girls the spotlight and the mic. I can see a lot more of that coming.
I'm so unbelievably impressed, Ilana, with what you have achieved for democratizing access to boardrooms and leadership, for putting girls front and center, and for hearing them and for seeing them, which I think is the most important work. So thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you so much for having me.